I felt like my Joe's Pub shows would be kind of my legacy. And I could have never imagined doing a show on HBO, never imagined doing 3 seasons of it, and never imagined it being something that has meant so much to people.
Bette Midler, Patti LuPone, Jerry Seinfeld. Each one of these performers is a huge fan of comedian and singer Bridget Everett, but it still took her decades to catch her big break. Everett is the star of the HBO comedy show Somebody Somewhere, currently in its 3rd season. It's loosely based on Everett's hometown, Manhattan, Kansas. The story follows Sam struggling through a midlife crisis after the death of her sister. Just waking up on time every day is a challenge. This is Bridget Everett as Sam talking to her neighbor, who's doing construction next door.
Hey! Hey! It's a little bit early to be doing that, isn't it?
Sorry. Almost done. It's 12:30.
Fuck, really?
Nice underpants.
Oh. They're my mom's.
Oh, vintage.
The show won a Peabody Award earlier this year. This level of success is new to Bridget Everett. But the more I learned about her, the more I watched her. I can't believe it didn't happen sooner. My guest today is Bridget Everett. I'm your host, Ben Mankiewicz, and this is Talking Pictures, a podcast about movies, about memories, and the stuff that happens in between. Turner Classic Movies makes this podcast with the streaming service Max, where you can see some of the movies mentioned in this episode. I gotta be honest, I wasn't familiar with Bridget Everett's work, but when I watched Somebody Somewhere, I was hooked. Then I found her 2015 comedy special, Gynecological Wonder. It's basically her live cabaret act at New York's downtown venue, Joe's Pub. The show's a mix of comedy, live music, and, well, it's definitely for a mature audience. Before watching the special, I was told to make sure my kid wasn't around, and so I'm giving you the same warning as we play you a little of her show.
She said, Bridget, you're a woman now. You gotta stand tall and be proud of what your mama gave you. Do you hear me? You got them little nippy titties. Put them in the air. She got them tube sack titties. She put them in the air. I got these beaver tail titties. I put them in the air. Put them up, put them up, put them up.
I started our conversation by asking Bridget Everett about her performances at Joe's Pub. She always brings members of the audience into the show. You caress a stranger's face in the audience, lightly sort of brushing and tenderly. And he is moving his head away. And then as you move on down the line, he rubs his face like that was irritating, right? And then 40 seconds later, he's standing up, belting out. He's just transformed. And I thought, that's it right there. She makes you a little uncomfortable, and then you're in.
Well, look, you gotta get to know people somehow. You just sort of figure out what works best for you. Well, I think the idea is when people come to the show, I want them to kind of unlock and let go, and you kind of see it happen in real time sometimes, and that is very it's rewarding. I don't know. I enjoy it.
Yeah. So Michael Schulman, who wrote a piece on you in the New Yorker, and Michael Schulman's one of the smartest people walking the planet.
You're so smart.
Yeah. But he described your show as too joyful to feel especially transgressive, because the content is transgressive, but it doesn't feel that way. And I think he captured it exactly, that it's joyful. And then he said, her blousy sexuality is less a weapon than an invitation to feel as uninhibited as she does. And I think that's it. That's what I'm talking about with the, of course, you're not trying to make people feel uncomfortable. You're trying to make them feel uninhibited. And that might be a little awkward at the beginning, but they get there.
Well, I feel seen. I think that, and like to have it put in such intellectual terms, I'm just like, I just want people to have fun.
Right? No.
They're just tits, like when because when I was little, I used to go to the grocery store with my mom, and she, I wrote this song called Titties about all different kinds of boobs, but mostly as like a sort of a love letter to my mom who had these long boobs that we call beaver tails. Anyway, she would go to the grocery store and just in her nightgown and just kind of not care. And I don't know. I think it was, I'm sure it was embarrassing at times, but mostly I thought it was pretty liberating and pretty fabulous.
uh, your mom went and saw you live, which
Hmm.
had to be a strange experience for you, and then she gave you a pretty memorable compliment.
Yeah, she did. Well, you've done your research. Yeah, she hadn't been to see me. I would, call her from time to time and be like, "Oh, mom, it's still singing. It's kind of going okay." And anyway, my friend flew her out because I didn't really have the money to do it. My friend Pilo flew her out, and she came to see me at Joe's Pub. And then afterwards, we were talking, and she said, that was freedom in motion. And honestly, it still kind of takes my breath away a little bit. It's like the best compliment I've ever received. And it's also that she's conservative, or was conservative rather, and a music teacher, and from Manhattan, Kansas, and that she could come to New York City and see her daughter, flailing her whatnots around and be proud of her and understand it was a pretty exceptional moment.
Let's back up then and talk a little bit about growing up and how different your life is now
Yeah.
in New York. But you're in Manhattan, but you grew up in Manhattan, Kansas,
Yeah.
home of Kansas State University. So what was that experience like? I mean, it is in many ways it feels like a stereotypical home in a conservative part of the country.
Yeah, you sort of think of classic small town America, football is king, and my dad was a lawyer, my mom was a music teacher. Um and then I'm the youngest of six kids, and but that's kind of where it ended. I always thought that my upbringing was kind of typical, but I don't know how much it was. My friend Stephanie, my best friend Stephanie, I've known her my entire life, lived down the street, and her parents, were together until her dad died. And my parents had a little bit more of a different, they got divorced, and it wasn't really the same kind of childhood she was having. But all in all, I had a lot of fun. I felt a little too sort of wild and blue for the town, but I had a lot of friends and swim team, show choir, your classics.
Your dad was a state senator, right?
Yeah, he was a state senator, and then his campaign slogan was "Everett for Senate, winner by our nose," because he had a big nose.
That's-
He was a real wit. He was super funny and charming. He was also mayor, and so was my brother. So we're kind of like the Kennedys of Manhattan, Kansas, and yeah, and actually my great uncle on my dad's side was a political cartoonist and won a Pulitzer Prize for, I think it was the Daily News. Yeah, and so that's kind of cool.
That's totally cool. Yeah. We both have famous great uncles.
Oh yeah, what was
That's
your?
a,
I'm sure your listeners already know, but who's your great
no,
uncle?
Joe Mankiewicz. He was a film director, and he won 4 Oscars in 2 years for All About Eve, Letter to Three Wives.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, that's my grandfather's brother. So I like it when I meet somebody else with a success where the sort of standard bearer of the family is your great uncle.
Yeah,
Um, the
we're a small
so
club.
That's right. So it is a small club. So I mean, it seems like the musical part of you came from your mom, and then the wit, maybe the comedy came from your dad.
Well, my dad was very witty, but my mom is just kind of naturally funny. Like just whatever comes out of her mouth or and in her facial expressions, she was just sort of instinctually. My dad could turn a phrase and was like just very witty, very sharp. But she's just like she was something else, and like you meet her and like not to skip around, but when we were uh, you know coming up, working on the pilot, we thought we'd try to make the character of my mom like my real mom, but you just can't do it because you wouldn't believe it if you met her. Like she's just kind of foul mouth, but sweet and kind of mean, just a little bit of everything. But she's also, yeah, she was a music teacher and uh, violinist and taught private lessons as well as school, and made us all go to piano lessons and really sort of advocated for us all things music. So when I decided to take this go this direction with my life, she was all on board, which is not totally the norm for a parent to want their to support their kid 20 years in while they're still waiting tables trying to become a singer.
Yeah, so yeah, it's remarkable and it's nice and I don't know the parents get how unbelievably valuable that is, right? I mean, what a gift that is to have at least one of your parents be fully supportive of what you're doing.
Yeah, totally. I was talking to another comic the other day, and he was just talking about his, he's very successful, and his parents are still like, well, he's still doing that comedy thing. It's like I own a brownstone.
So, so you're this kid, you're growing up in Manhattan, Kansas, and you have this abundant talent that is clear. I don't know, what age do you realize? Well, I'm not just an okay singer. Like I'm good at this. This is something that people respond to.
I think I might have picked up on that around 2015. So,
All right, good. Yeah, yeah. So you were 40 when you figured that out. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
something like that. I don't know. Kansas is people aren't really like, oh, I'm so good at this. It's sort of like you want to prove that you don't think you're good at something. Oh well, I guess I just went out there and did my thing, and the team did great, and I'm so praise God or whatever. Just like you're not like, I don't know. I didn't. As much as my mom was like encouraging me, I still sort of struggled with recognizing my own capabilities.
So you go to Arizona State to study what, operatic voice? Is that right? No.
Vocal performance.
Vocal
Yeah.
performance. And but I love why you picked Arizona State, because that's all I know about Arizona State is the reason why you picked it.
Well,
Just
because
like,
it's party school.
yeah, it's like a legendarily famous party school, right?
Yeah, and you could lay out, all year round, get yourself a nice tan, and yeah, it just sounded kind of perfect to me. School seemed secondary. I just wanted to be in some nice weather.
But then you get there, and if you're gonna do this, if you're gonna work on your voice, and your voice is the thing that you're sort of that you're studying how to make the best use of it, you can't stay out till 4:30 a.m. drinking and carousing all the time.
Well, when you're 18 years old, you think you can, but I learned I learned over time that it's like it's a muscle. It's a muscle. You have to work it out. You have to stretch it. You have to treat it properly with care. And so I was definitely partying and paying the price with my voice. I sort of partied my way through school, and I would lose my voice a lot. I would you go to bars, and there's still smoke in bars, and just, and I don't know. I just thought that that's a way that my you know my f- my my physicality, or what do you call it, my physiology or whatever it was, like it just would break down. I came to find out later that if you drink water, don't stay out all night, rest, then you don't lose your voice all the time.
So if you want to have a big, if you want to have a career in this business, and especially because your stage presence is everyone who sees it, like all the people who've helped you, who've reached out, who've recognized your talent, have basically said some version of, you see her on stage and you realize, oh my God, she's too big for the room. Like her presence is this is a star and this needs an audience. And that isn't, obviously that couldn't happen in Manhattan, Kansas. So,
Right.
So you go to New York at, I think, 24, is that right?
Yeah, that's about right.
And do you find instant success when you get to New York?
No, no. I waited tables till 2013. So, I started by singing in karaoke bars. I sang at the Parlor on the Upper West Side every Sunday night. And that was kind of all I was doing. And then I started slowly getting asked to sing on certain things. And And then other people were like, when you introduce yourself, you're like, well, I'm a waitress. Like, what do you really do? I'm like, I don't know. I'm a singer, I guess. But nobody really takes you at your word. But people would see me do karaoke and they're like, oh my God, we got to go see Bridget sing karaoke. And I'm like, well, this is where I'm going to live and die at this, this is my moment, like Sunday nights at the parlor, and that's going to be it. But then, people started to take notice. And then Jason Egan at Ars Nova, which is the theater in New York, that's sort of new artist, and I'm trying to think of the exact word they use, but they help foster new talent. And he's like, you should come here and do a show, and I did, and he really was kind of the first person to put me on a different track.
And that, I guess, and that's where, because then that's where Michael Patrick King saw you.
Yeah, so
Michael
John
Patrick
Stein,
King, who is the creative force behind Sex and the City.
yeah, Sex and the City and Just Like That, The Comeback, all that business. And John Steingart at Ars Nova knew Michael, and he was like, I've got this. There's this young gal in New York, because he was meeting her, and he saw him in LA, and he's like, but we just don't know exactly what to do with her. And so I got into the Aspen Comedy Festival, which used to be a big thing, HBO Aspen Comedy Festival in 2006. And Michael came and he saw my show. And, there were a large number of people that walked out. I was in this huge space and it was really demoralizing. And I went backstage and I was crying. My friend John Battles was there and he was like holding me. And then in walks Michael with his partner Craig. And he was like, that was incredible. And I thought I'd really just shit the bed. And, things kind of developed from there.
No, you probably know this, but here's what he said, how he put it, right? Michael Patrick King said, acknowledging what you just described, he says, half the audience left, and the half that stayed gave her a standing ovation. And he thought, that's a star right there. So that's a great break and a great sort of Hollywood success story. Granted, it was in Aspen.
Yeah. Well, believe me, I was like, they get you there, and I had like zero money. And I was sweating just to take the days off work to go, but I was like, I have to do this. So yeah, he really changed my life. We did a small show at Ars Nova with Jason, and I did it with Kenny Melman, and we did the show called At Least It's Pink, and that was in January of 2007. And yeah, he really helped kind of craft like what we had been working on and help shape it and give it like more of a theatrical sort of thing. And because of who he is, a lot of people came to see the show and were discovering me. And yeah, it was really cool. And then it was supposed to transfer to off Broadway, and we tried to find a way to make it go further, and then it just didn't. And I was like, okay, well, it's over. I had my shot.
We're going to take a quick break. Coming up, Bridget Everett talks about having a celebrity following.
She came to my show at Joe's Pub a few years ago and came backstage, and I was like, holy shit, she's in my dressing room.
Bridget Everett gained a following as she came up in the comedy scene in New York during the early 2000s. Her blend of music and comedy, as well as her unfiltered commitment to having fun, gained the attention of people like Ben Stiller, Sarah Jessica Parker, and Alan Cumming. Ad Rock from the Beastie Boys signed on as a founding member of her backup band, The Tender Moments. But still, even with that A-list support, Bridget found it hard to take her career to the next level. Well, I know there were a couple moments where you thought it's over. And I mean, the success that you're having now only becomes, I want people to understand how meaningful it is because of all these false starts where you thought, okay, this is it. I'm about to make it in some regard. And then it turned out, no, not quite yet.
Yeah, repeatedly. I mean, I know that that's not an uncommon thing for people in this line of work, but, I don't really, I felt like I don't look like other people. I'm kind of like this big woman, like with like a post-athletic build. I'm like right hovering around 6 feet. I have a foul mouth. And my presence is pretty kind of like unwielding, or what's the word? Like sort of just wily, sort of wild, just off the. And I think it's kind of hard to pinpoint what to do with it. I think you're right. Like I think people would come to the show and they'd be like, you know, I love her energy. I there's something about her, but I don't know what to do with her. So see you later. And that kind of felt like what was happening a lot.
Well, that show, and like the show that like in Aspen, and like the people who saw it were industry people, right?
Yeah.
Who are granted theoretically looking for new talent, but they can be pretty cynical.
Yeah.
And like Aspen locals, like unbelievably wealthy women wearing incredibly expensive cowboy hats.
Yeah.
Like it was not a cabaret style audience.
No, it was like a very a new demographic for me, not necessarily my people like I'm used to. In my early years, it was a largely gay audience. And still there's I have a gay following, which I'm grateful for, because I wouldn't be anywhere without them.
So Michael Patrick King helps you, and like, I just want to give, because I love this line, and you developed this show, and you got lines like, you say, just this afternoon, I slept with man number 2,569, and fellas, one of you could be next.
Yeah. Oh, I got to bring that back. That's a good one.
It's a great line.
So stupid.
It's so stupid and so funny. So all of this sort of leads, like you have that, so nothing quite happens with that show. You get discouraged. You think you're heading somewhere. And then you and Michael develop a show for Amazon.
Yeah, I Love You More. Yeah.
And which has this sort of saying, at least according to the Amazon people, this is relayed through Michael Patrick King, but their reaction is split like that audience in Aspen. And
Yeah.
it aired. You get one episode on the air, right?
Yeah, they used to have a system where they would air like 3 pilots and then people would vote on them. And we were the highest vote getters. Like we got close to perfect from people watching. But whoever their focus group is, or whoever it was back in Silicon Valley that was responsible for thumbs up or thumbs down, we're like, I don't know. I don't think I want to get to know her.
Yeah, so the audience, according to what he said, the Amazon people told him was that the men didn't relate to you, right?
Yeah.
But women were through the roof for you. And I mean, a couple of things. One, if every woman is into you and every man isn't, and you got a show, that's enough of an audience right there. But
well, it turns out there's a lot of women out there. That's a lot of eyes.
Yeah, you guys are everywhere. I see you every day. Two of you live in the house with me. And so like, and he said he'd never tried harder to change people's minds.
Oh, he did.
Like, no, yeah, he said, like, let me show you. So get the second show on, because then the men are going to come around and they're going to be like, no, this is the girl I want to go have a beer with.
Yeah, Michael is a salesman. Like he gets in a room and you are swept up in whatever it is he is selling. Like the fact that he couldn't get them to buy what I thought was a really good pilot, and I'm pretty self-critical, but like it was pretty fabulous, and they just couldn't. They're just like, nope, and that was it. And I remember he came over to my apartment sort of after, some point after, and we were sitting on my couch, and he said, well, how do you feel about all this? And I said, I feel like this was my moment, and it didn't work, and this is it. And he didn't disagree with me. He was like, he felt like, as I remember, and I don't have the best memory in the world, but he felt like it was a moment for me too. And we were both kind of afraid that it was passing and this was the shot. And it was really, really, really sad.
Yeah, I imagined that was that. When I read that, I was like that. I mean, now knowing the success you've had after that, you think, oh, well, it's fine. But I imagine in that moment, you don't know what the future, you don't know what's coming up ahead of you, right? And you think that this is it.
I know I'm going to be, waiting tables and whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, I didn't want to do it anymore. I wanted to be a singer. I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be a performer, a writer, all those things. And Michael and I love each other very much. And he was, the first kind of big Hollywood person to believe in me. And I think he thought he could get them the boulder up the hill, but it just didn't happen.
He said that they said, we think Bridget is the next Roseanne, but he was like, no, we got to get people to recognize that she's the next Bridget.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah. So, I've seen Roseanne comparisons, Bette Midler too, and, they're not at all like you. I mean, they
No,
just aren't. Yeah.
I think that I probably most identify with Bette Midler, just the like her all the stuff in the bathhouses and that she feels like sort of like she's created her own color. So I've always loved her. And in fact, she came to my show at Joe's Pub a few years ago, and there happened to be a lot of famous people in the audience that night, and they all came backstage, and I was like, holy shit, she's in my dressing room. And she sort of quietly sort of let everybody say and do their thing, and then she came over and gave me a hug, and she's like, I'm so proud of you. And I was like, oh my God, I thought I was gonna just like, thank you.
Yeah, that has got
It's
to.
pretty.
Patty LuPone like stood up one night, like
Yeah.
at Joe's Pub.
Yeah.
Joe, first of all, tell people what Joe's Pub is, because that's where you've done this is where you do your alt cabaret show.
Yeah, Joe's Pub is a cabaret style venue in New York City. It's in the Public Theater. You may know the Public Theater that brought you Hamilton. That you walk in the doors. It's a great theater downtown, and there's some theater going on one side, and Joe's Pub is on the left, and that's where like the more music and cabaret style stuff goes down, and that's where I'm a regular, and I love it there.
And Patty LuPone stood up and said, there's nobody like you.
Yeah, and come on. I mean,
come on. No, that's it. Come on.
Yeah, come on.
So before I get to a little bit more on the show, I just want to get so you had this wild success with people like Patty LuPone and Bette Midler and all the people who are in your special, who are helping out on the special, like Amy Schumer, which we'll get to, and Zachary. Amy's a big part of your life, and Amy Schumer and Zachary Quinto, and then at the end of your special, you're in bed with Peter Dinklage and Susan Sarandon. Yet still you're doing this, and you had to wait tables still.
Yeah.
This is happening in your life. And so you go to the Upper West Side, as far away really as you can get from anything downtown, because you're afraid you're going to see people who came to the show, and that embarrasses you, right?
Yeah. I just, I didn't want to be known. Like, I wanted the people that would see me. I wanted the people who were seeing me downtown to see me as a singer and not as a waitress. And I wanted the people that were seeing me on the Upper West Side as a waitress and not as a singer. I just like, here's the specials. What do you want to drink? And, blah, blah, blah. I didn't want the two to mix. I kind of wanted to be anonymous on the Upper West Side.
So, so the show. So then, what? I guess 6 years after 7 years after the failure of the Amazon show and the devastation of that, all of a sudden, here it is. You got Somebody Somewhere. It's on the air. Season 3 is out now. It's like it's really special. And this is like a version of yourself, right? This is like who you might have been, like if you'd stayed.
Yeah, if I'd stayed. And it's interesting to think about that. I think that the one thing that would be, the one thing that would be the same as the kind of people I would find. I feel like, when I came to New York and I met Murray Hill very early on, who plays Fred Rococo in the show, I was like, oh my God, these are my people. And Murray and I, we're very close friends. We drive each other crazy, but we love each other. and then, I think that the people that are in the show are a reflection of the kind of people that I love in New York.
Your best friend in the show, Joel.
Yep.
Like, that's such an incredible character. Like, just.
Yeah, he makes the show. I think the show is at the core of it. The heart of it is the friendship, the sort of the love affair of a friendship between Sam and Joel, and that's played by Jeff. Joel's played by Jeff Hiller, and I play Sam, and kind of how, what happens when you fall in love with somebody at later in life, like in your 40s, and like making a new friend at that stage in your life, and falling in love with that person, and as a friend, because I do think you fall in love with your friends, not in a romantic way, but just you just love them in a and and everything that can come with that, and like and the changes and Jeff, who plays Joel, brings such a warmth to him. Jeff himself is very sweet and authentic and gentle, but also has, a really sly side that I think is, who Joel is. And you meet Sam has no choice but to kind of be unmoored by him.
You've never been in love?
No, why would I do that to myself?
Well, do you want to change that?
No. I'd rather just sit around judging people that choose love and lose.
Maybe we could join a dating site together.
No,
That could be fun.
absolutely not. That's disgusting. No. Besides, you're the only person I know that would do anything for me. Like stand guard for me on the side of the road when I gotta take a TT.
Oh my gosh! Samantha Miller!
Yeah, he's his loyalty to he's what you want in a friend. Like he is just, he'll call you out, but like there's he's also incredibly forgiving and understanding, and then you are to him as well on the show. It's just, and I love that the woman who plays your sister, and then a business partner of hers, they're like so eager for you to get your life together because you were sort of a self-described hot mess on the show. You've come back,
Yeah.
and they're like, and Joel's so obviously gay, and they're like, oh my God, you and Joel, are you guys dating? I love it. Yeah.
And oddly enough, Mary Catherine, who plays Trisha, my sister that you're talking about, is so incredible. And like, as people watch the show, in season 3, she's just like, she just blows your mind. She's so good. But we lived together for around 8 years during the time that I was waiting tables and doing cabaret and karaoke, and so she's been on the ride with me. So it's been really cool to get to do this together.
Mary Catherine Garrison is her name, and she's a really remarkable actress. I'm going to let one of my dogs outside because they're being dogs. Hang on. Okay, get out. Go away. Go away. Thank you. Bye.
That sounds like a big boy.
There are 3 of them there, and apparently there was a squirrel 875 yards away. So they had to, they needed to let everybody know and get out there and find it.
Well, luckily my Pomeranian's asleep, because otherwise we'd be hearing about it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, they're 3 big dogs. Going from 2 dogs, going from 1 dog to 2 dog was easy. So I thought going from 2 to 3 would be easy too. But 2 to 3 is.
That's where you were wrong.
Yeah, it turns out that's what we like to call a huge burden.
No.
So some of the mom on the show is obviously not directly your mom, but I mean the mom on the show is an alcoholic, like and goes into rehab. Yeah,
that tracks.
Real.
That tracks.
Yeah. And so your parents, I mean, this was not I guess it was not a happy marriage. It was also not a happy divorce, right? I mean, it's not like when they got divorced when I think you were like 8 or 9 years old, it's not like they became, best friends and great co-parents.
No, it was pretty ugly, but I think that's why, my siblings sort of, just got through everything with humor and making fun of each other. And that was kind of their coping mechanism. And I kind of picked up on that. It's hard to shake.
The father on the show, that's
Mike Haggerty.
Really great actor. And just incredibly, instantly likable.
He's great. He was great.
That's like almost the father you sort of imagined you might have.
Yeah, I think so. I think, the great thing about Mike Haggerty is, he came into audition, and he had done his audition, like his initial audition. He basically just put his iPad up on the mantle and just read only his lines to the camera, like not even like reading with somebody else. And I saw his tape, and Carolyn Strauss, our executive producer, was like, well, I think it's Mike. And I was like, well, I think it's this other guy. And then she's like, no. And anyway, he came in to read, and he walked in the room, and I started crying because he had such a warmth about him and such a, affability, if that's the right usage of that word. And I just, I loved him right away. And I felt like he felt like a paternal figure, and he felt like kind of what I'd been wanting my whole life. And it was weird to sort of experience that in such a, just so instantly.
So again, the show, there's a, I don't know, and there's a Pamela Adlon's a friend of mine, and
Hmm.
like the only show that I thought it had any similarity to was her show Better Things, because
I
it's
love that
just,
show.
yeah, there's just this sort of, unexpected. Yeah, they don't try and solve. You don't try and solve problems. You're not delivering a message. These are little moments in a person's life who's trying to figure out how the hell to get through it and get to the next day.
Yeah, I like to think of our show as happening at the speed of life. We try not to like hammer too many plot points. It's just really about seeing what happens between two people and how changes slowly happen within someone.
So you quit. You didn't quit waitressing until you were in your like early 40s, right?
I guess that's the math. 2013. Yeah, 41. I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah,
So finding this success at this stage,
yeah.
um, you think is more meaningful, or is it just always meaningful?
Absolutely. I still like some of like, I'm just listening to you sort of showing me my life back, with like these Patty LuPone moments and whatever. And I was like, this is as big as it's going to get. Patty LuPone standing up at my show. I felt like my Joe's Pub shows would be kind of my legacy, and where I would, you know, the height that I would achieve. I could have never imagined doing a show on HBO, never imagined doing 3 seasons of it, and never imagined it being something that has meant so much to people. And, great reviews and other things. It just feels like I'm living outside myself. I can't believe it.
We're taking another quick break. When we return, our Super 8, where Bridget Everett tells us about the movies that have mattered to her. And we're back. Time for our Super 8, where we ask our guests a series of set questions about movies they've watched, movies they've loved, and movies they'll never forget. Were movies important to you growing up? Did you watch a lot of movies as a kid in Manhattan, Kansas?
Yeah, I mean, you know, obviously it was whatever was on like basic cable was what we watched. We watched The Sound of Music and Wizard of Oz every year, and movies when they would come on. And my brother Brock worked at a movie theater, so he sort of I learned more about movies through him. And he had this Mommy Dearest poster in his room that he had on the back of his bedroom door. So when my mom opened it, she couldn't see it, and they would shut it. And he would throw like, darts at it and stuff. And he's kind of a rebellious kid. We both love our mother very much.
What is your most memorable movie watching experience?
Um, Probably going to see Magic Mike 2. I guess it's actually Magic Mike XXL with my friends Murray Hill and Champagne Jerry. We went to a matinee. They're like, man, you got to see this. We got to see this. And because I never saw the original, the Magic Mike, but we went in the middle of the day, and I remember that scene when Joe Manganiello, is that how you say his name? I'm so bad at this stuff.
You got it.
He walks into the shop quip or 7-Eleven or whatever it is, and he just starts dancing, and we were screaming like it was we were just screaming. And then finally the one behind the counter is not smiling, and finally he gets her to smile, and I believe we all got up and were cheering and giving each other high fives, and that was very memorable. Still haven't seen the original Magic Mike. Don't want to spoil it because the sequel is the best in my opinion.
That's great. That's and Murray Hill. By the way, just anybody, Murray Hill described himself as the hardest working middle aged man in show business, which is a great line. And just when you could say, I wouldn't say with my friends Murray Hill and Champagne Jerry.
Yeah, Champagne Jerry, also known as Neil Medlin, an incredible downtown performance artist that changed my life.
Is there a movie you loved in high school?
Yeah, just your standards, your 16 Candles, your Ferris Bueller's. But I think Mommy Dearest was a real bonding experience for me and my brother. I still love it. And I also kind of looked like her, like the young Christina. I looked like young Christina. So I just, I don't know. We loved it, but maybe we watched it as more of a comedy than the serious drama it was. I mean, but even now watching clips, you're just like, God, she was incredible. She's so incredible.
No wire hangers! What's wire hangers doing in this closet when I told you no wire hangers ever?
Yeah, I interviewed Faye Dunaway at the TCM Classic Film Festival, and
Oh my God.
and she played Joan Crawford. It's TCM, like we want to ask her about it. That's the only thing she didn't want to talk about. She was not, because I think of exactly what you said, is that I think she gives a performance in that movie that is just totally different from everyone else in the movie.
Yeah.
Like hers is amazing, and everybody else is like in this weird camp movie.
Well,
Which is
I think her performance is unshakable, and like
Yeah.
I feel bad that she doesn't have a fond recollection. It's like somebody else in one of my other favorite movies, that Sound of Music. Christopher Plummer doesn't he sort of famously not? He's like not proud to be part of that movie. I mean, it's insane.
he was, but by the end he'd come around.
Okay,
That's
good.
that's the good news on that. But Faye still, like, yeah, you want to be like, hey, Faye, I got it. Might not have been that well directed in the end, or just it didn't work, but not because of you. Like you were not the issue there.
Well,
she's amazing.
It worked for me, and it worked for Brock Everett at 1730 Fairview in Manhattan, Kansas. So,
Is there a movie that you'd show to a friend or somebody special?
other than Mommy Dearest, probably. Well, Rudy. I love that movie, and I actually, my friend, not to drop a name, but Adam Horowitz, Ad Rock, he would come to Catch Club, which is where Murray Hill.
He helped you write songs, right?
Yeah, he's the original founding member of my band, The Tender Moments, and we've been good friends. And I was like, you guys see Rudy. I can't believe you see it. It's like one of the best movies I've ever seen. And he and his wife Kathleen Hanna took me at my word and tried to watch it, and they're like, what is this movie? Like, why do you think we would like this? I was like, what are you talking about? 5 foot nothing, 100 and nothing. Just like, the captain of the football taking his jersey off and laying it on the table. And I want Rudy to dress for me. And, the coach saying, come on, you're a captain now, act like it. And he said, I believe I am. I mean, come on. It's so beautiful. And of course the music is probably manipulative, but I want to be manipulated, and I love that. So you know what, Rudy?
Yeah, if the music's manipulative but it's in a good movie, it's okay.
It's
all right.
okay.
Yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind that. By the way, that's a great answer.
And Sean Astin, by the way, like is somebody that's also like, he is all in on that movie. Like he is fully, he's like, you really buy him as this like wide-eyed kind of believer. And I don't know, I love it.
What you doing here? Don't you have practice?
Not anymore, I quit.
So you didn't make the dress list?
I wanted to run out of that tunnel for my dad. To prove to everyone that I
Prove
worked...
what?
That I was somebody.
Oh, you are so full of crap. You're 5 feet nothing. 100 and nothing. And you hung in with the best college football team in the land. In this lifetime, you don't have to prove nothing to nobody except yourself.
I went to dinner 2 nights ago with one of my best friends. We spent 12 minutes talking about Rudy.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah. So my quick Rudy follow-up questions are, first of all, I mean, for you then, Bridget Everett, like that, there's a Rudy component to your story, right?
Yeah, I think that's why I love it so much. I mean, just like him sitting on the bench and getting the letter. I mean, you could honestly start crying just talking about him. It's a little over the top and melodramatic, but like his release of like finally getting the thing he wanted to get into Notre Dame is like, I understand that feeling when you want something for so long, for so bad, and you finally get it, and like nobody thinks you can do it. I mean, I do very much feel like I'm a Rudy story. I mean, nobody's carried me off the field just yet, but I feel him in my bones.
So imagine for this question, you're a thief. There's a vast warehouse where all the movie props are stored from every movie that's ever been made. You break in, you can steal one thing.
I mean, that's such a big question, but I probably would say Rudy's helmet,
Totally.
honestly.
That's good.
You
You're,
know,
yeah.
when the captain like grabs him by the, the mask of the helmet, it was like, he's getting ready to walk. They let him suit up for his last game and they're like, "You gonna take us out there?" He's like, "I've never been more ready for something my entire life." And I don't know. I think that helmet's a good reminder to keep going.
Did your mother have a favorite movie?
Well, my mother was a very big Turner Classic Movies fan. Like she just, you call her for probably the last 30 years of her life. And I'm like, "What are you doing, Mom?" "I'm watching Turner Classic Movies." And so kind of, "Oh, who's on today?" "Oh, Montgomery Clift." She just, and like, she just, she has like such a horrible memory, but could remember like all of the big stars and what movies she was watching. And so my brother was telling me a sweet story about how he would call her and be like, "What are you watching?" And he would turn on Turner Classic Movies and watch it with her. So I think just all of that.
Is there a movie that influenced your cabaret show? I mean, I imagine more than one
Oh,
did, but
oh
what
no,
sort of
no.
what are the big ones?
Oh, there's one that is like a full that changed my life. The documentary "Let the Good Times Roll." I'm sure. Are you familiar with it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not what I
Yeah.
thought you were going to say. Yeah.
Well, I know, but my friend Larry Crone, also the House of Larion, who makes my dresses, I used to go to his house every Sunday night, and him and his now husband, he's like, "You got to watch this movie," and he put it on, and you know, there's Chuck Berry and Bo Diddley, and everybody's kind of doing their thing. It's very exciting, but then the Little Richard segment starts, and it's probably like a 17-minute part of the movie. I think I don't know. It's like long, and Little Richard is like riding in the back of the limo or whatever, and I knew who Little Richard was, but I didn't know who Little Richard was.
Right, right, right.
And he gets there, and the promoter's like, "Look, Richard, just don't get the kids up dancing on the stage. Don't get them in the aisles." And he's like, well, he's basically like, "Okay, I don't know, whatever." And then he goes out there, and like he's getting ready to go on, and he's like, the equipment, the band's too far back. Like everything should be right up on the edge of the stage. Like we need to be closer to them, and and you just sort of feel his like, "I want to connect with the people." And then he goes out there and he proceeds to bring people up on stage to dance. He climbs up on top of the amps, which are sort of stacked very perilously, and he takes off his shirt. He's like ripping it off in pieces and throwing it to people, and people are like, honestly, like in a trance and losing their shit. And just and then he starts to take his boot off at one point, and then everybody, it really is like electric.
I want you all to know that I am the king of rock and roll. Let all the women folks say, "Woo!" Let all the men say, "Oh!" Oh, my soul.
And then he leaves and he walks through the audience and he does everything he's not supposed to do, but it changed me. I remember like looking to Larry and I'm like, "We got to make something like that." So he made me that's when he really started making me stage clothing. It was like this tearaway sequin muumuu, and I would get on top of the piano at Joe's Pub and rip that off and throw it in the audience. And it opened my eyes to like a sort of just vital, in your face performance style. I mean, I was already kind of like that, but it gave me like just to sort of lean into the abandon, because that is what's going to make the room come on fire. Or I don't know. I still get chills thinking about it.
As you describe it, I mean, so much of that is in your show. So totally. I mean, you were in the audience. You're giving piggyback rides to people in the audience, for crying out loud. You're ripping your shirt open. You do your costume changes. You don't go anywhere. You just turn
Well,
around.
Yeah. There's no time.
It's so great. All right. Is there a movie? I think I know the answer to this question, Bridget. Is there a movie that makes you cry without fail?
Yeah, Rudy.
Yeah. Okay.
But also Dancer in the Dark. I've never been able to revisit it, because when I went to go see that in the middle of the afternoon down at Lincoln Plaza Cinemas when that was still around, and I was the only one in the theater, and I cried so hard that I burst blood vessels in my nose and cheek.
That's Lars von Trier.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, by the way. So,
oh my God, and like there's something that Catherine Deneuve, who's also in it, she said about Bjork. She's like, she cannot act, she can just be. And like I've always thought about that as like when you're, performing or acting, that you should just be. So I don't know, pretty cool.
what movie makes you laugh without fail?
Well, so many, but probably Young Frankenstein. I'm sure that's a popular one, but like, Peter Boyle singing "Putting on the Ritz." Just I cannot. Just like, and when he's like "super duper," I cannot. It's so dumb. I love it so much. And what's also great about that movie is like, there's so many incredible stars in it, but like they sort of know how to pass the baton in a way, and everybody gets a moment. And I just watched that Gene Wilder documentary, which I also love so much. And I don't know, I just that whole song "Putting on the Ritz," I cannot. It's just too much.
I want to. I'll tell you. I'm going to leave with one question. Now that you have it, now that you've made it, whatever that means, has the anxiety ebbed a little bit? Like, or two parts. Has the anxiety ebbed, and or can you at least enjoy it? Like, does it feel like, does getting there mean something? All that you put in, all the work, all the pain that went before.
I think I'm trying to appreciate where I've landed. I think it's really challenging, first of all, because it's been such a huge part of my life these last few years, and I've loved every second of it, as painful as it's been sometimes. It's been the best experience in my life, and I just hope that I get to experience something that makes me this happy again. And I don't know what that is. Maybe it'll be showbiz, or maybe it'll be something else, but this has just been the most incredible ride. And I don't know, what a dream.
Well, you're not anybody who came before you. You are Bridget Everett. You were the original, and Patti LuPone was right. There's nobody like you, and I've really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me on. It's really nice. Thank you.
Talking to Bridget Everett is a complete joy. I hope to see her live show one day soon. In the meantime, do yourself a favor and watch Somebody Somewhere on Max. It's a quiet and tender show. I don't use that word a lot. It's incredibly funny, often poignant. The show takes its time. I like how Bridget described it. The show's plot happens at the speed of life. And, well, we could all use a little more Rudy in our lives. It's good to have somebody like Bridget remind us of that. That's our show. Thanks for listening. You can find many of the movies we talked about on the streaming service Max. We made a list for you. It's in our show notes. James Kim produces and edits Talking Pictures. The show is booked by Noea Murphy, Susan Bisak, and Missy Burns-Halpern. Glenn Matullo mixes each episode. Production support from Phil Richards, Yaakov Friedman, Liz Winter, Nicole Hill, and Cameron Kell. Angela Carone is our executive producer. Special thanks to Michael Gluckstad, Allison Cohen, and Kenya Reyes from the Max Podcast team. I'm Ben Mankiewicz. See you next time.